Hey everyone, welcome to 2019. I did a video last night, um, but I covered a lot of different things that I really wanted to be able to cover, but I felt like it could have been done better. So we're going to start this again, and it actually got deleted. So we're going to start this whole thing off again, and we're going to talk about a lot of different things. And I want you, first off, to know that I hope for the most amazing things possible for you in 2019. This is the year. Anything that you have felt you've been grappling with, but you felt there's an obstacle in order for you to live your best life possible, if you've been struggling with outside forces that have made it difficult for you to be able to live in joy, live in kindness, be able to create abundance in your life, financially, in your job. If you feel like you've been stuck at a job that has kept you from really truly being able to live out your own joy, 2019 is the year. This is the year that we retune. And it's something that I didn't start off the last video with. And I really think that it's important to start off that video and this video with a really strong message of hope. Thank you so much for the subscribers that I have. I appreciate you guys so much. And most of them are good friends, which is really great. It's funny because let's start off with a saying that is kind of known. They say, watch out for artists because they deal with people on all echelons in the world, low to high, high to low. We meet people from all over, every single economic situation, every single social status, every single kind of background. That is a huge blessing to be one of those people that I get to meet every single kind of background, single social status, and every single whatever. you The thing is that there are some artists that they're only focused on trying to make money. They're in survival mode. Okay. With me, I don't necessarily focus so much on having my work be focused on what is going to sell so much as what do I want to put out in the world that is saying something about what's really going on. Most times I do art that it's saying something maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years ahead, but I know it's important, and I just hope that maybe someday someone will really value that and know that that was powerful. It was a change. So, and I do that based on listening, always having my ear to the ground and listening to what people that in my world are telling me. Okay? In my world, it's been very strange. I have met a lot of different people. And that's why I'm so focused on trying to talk about things that right now seem to be very dark and difficult, but they're not. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why, because things are changing. Cheers. Okay. So last night I was talking about the government shutdown and what's been going on with the military for a very long time. And what originally had been the intent of military, the history of military, and what's going on with all this chaos, why that's happening, and how things are getting better. So we're going to start from there, okay? Originally, military, and this is going to sound shocking to some people, and I'm going to also add with the military, it was the government as well. Do you know that originally government was a voluntary privilege that people that were respected in their community were given an added on honor to be a leader in their community, had nothing to do with making money. Anyone who was working for government, it was a volunteer-based thing, okay? This started in 1776, all the way through till the mid-1800s, okay? You would have leaders in your community that knew care. In 1776, let's go way back. My 5th grade uncle was General John Stark, okay? Most history books have erased him. There's a reason for it. No child that's grown up since the 1970s has even heard of him. There's a reason for that as well. And I'm going to tell you why. General John Stark was the person that Vermont loves to say, live free or die. Like that's their coin phrase, live free or die. That was my 5th grade uncle, okay? In his writings, in his philosophy of what he believed living in a true free democracy was, you had a space, a country, a state, an area where you could live out your best self possible. This is something that is not discussed at all in this context in current school situations and in also community situations. Everything's very much about fitting into a community that's already focused on the bigger good. It's almost communistic. Back in 1776, they had been dealing with Britain, who basically owned the majority of the global society, okay? And they were taxed out the wazoo. No one could actually grow up and become who they truly want to be, which 90% of the time, that's usually a good thing. The forces always try to push us to doing really gnarly things for $1. And I want you to think for a moment, in the majority of jobs that are out there, up until 2016, 2017, did you feel a true purpose? And did you feel that you were truly living out your best conversation with what you had to do to survive, to make $1? It's just a question. In 1776, they were going through that as well. And you had a few men that wanted to create a land, a space, for people that could actually live out their truest, best heart. General John Stark was one of those guys. And he said, number one, you cannot have a paid militia. It is, if you're going to have your own country, and he fought with George Washington about this for like a lot because George Washington wanted to create a mimic of the British government in America, where we'd have a paid military. General John Stark said, you have, if we're going to create a new country that's totally different from Britain, that's totally different from any other country that we know of at that time, every single citizen is accountable for their actions and what they bring to the table. And we need to all discuss, if we're going to go to war or if we're going to fight for something, it better be the most honorable thing, mostly in defense rather than offense. This is going to be revolutionary for so many people to understand this, because America right now has been understood as being the big bully in the world. We go into all these other different countries and we drain their resources, and then we tell our public citizens that we're bad people, so that we have a self-hatred, and then we want everyone to come back into this country that hates us because we've done terrible things. Let's go back to the original idea. And if we just remembered General John Stark, and we just remembered what the real conversation was originally supposed to be, all of these things that have happened in the 20th century would not have happened, because our citizens would have been taught the right thing to do. You're a citizen of the United States. Everyone has to agree on whether it's noble or not to get involved with anything else that goes on globally. We're not going to put our money into insanity. We're not going to drain our resources for other countries in order to supposedly help them. If we're going to go to war, we're going to go to war because we're defending our own values. And it's going to be a voluntary thing. No one's owned. See, the thing is, when you start creating an economy for the military, what ends up happening is that you get folks that are new to the country, that are just starting out, that are trying so hard to get themselves together. They're willing to do anything. And most times that's what the military wants. You need a free education. You need to pay for your family. Join the military. And you'll get pay. You'll get a college education. Your family will get taken care of. You may die. You may become a U.S. guinea pig. Because at this point, it's gotten so bad. And I follow this. There's a reason. This is in me. This is in my blood. Okay? To care about this stuff. You may not know me from Adam. It's fine. But I'm telling you, it's in my blood to care about this stuff. It's gotten so bad in the military up until recently that in order to join the military, you had to sign a document that said your mind, body, and soul were now property of the U.S. government. Now, many military people would say to me, well, Kim, that's just showing your patriotism. Hold up. Hold up. When you have the likes of Michael Aquino running the show in the military, do you think signing that document has anything to do with dignity, honor, true patriotism, and a connection to doing what's really, truly right? It's not going to happen. They're marketed one thing, and as soon as they sign that document, they are thrown into the echelons of the worst nightmare you could possibly imagine. That is why we've had so many people in the military having PTSD, having major psychological problems, committing suicide. No one wants to talk about how many people in the military since 9/11 have committed suicide. Why? You know why? Because they signed that document. They believed they were doing something right. They wanted to grow their own life with their own family. And they went on those tours thinking that they were actually helping freedom, only to find out that what they were actually doing was creating a private militia for a global human trafficking situation. Not only human trafficking and war and plundering of other sovereign nations, we're talking child sex trafficking. We're talking drug trafficking. Afghanistan, hello, that's all is the heroin epidemic, and privately making a ton of money off of selling heroin to everyone. And how many people are on heroin in America? Who are the leaders? Who are the leaders that brought us into this horrible nightmare of economies and using the military for terrible, terrible things and silencing them? They were not allowed to ever speak about this. Do you understand that when you join the military, and I'm going to say it, I said it last night, I'm going to say it again. I'm willing to say this because I never had to join it. When you join the military, you can't talk about those things. You're not allowed to. You get shut up. You get court-martialed. Unless you have the right leader. And when you have the right leader, it all gets changed. And it's all getting changed now, which is really amazing. So, back in 1776, if we could even imagine a government that was run voluntarily, we did not have to spend billions of dollars in having to run a government at all. People did it based on volunteer, the vote was there. The vote was there because people trusted them, because in their everyday life they proved that they were trustworthy people. That's how they got the vote. Now it's all about who gives the most money to get the best media coverage that goes along with the lines that sells what makes the most money, which is war and human trafficking. I hope that you guys understand someday it is to have in the White House right now that isn't owned and speaks their mind and actually is shutting down all these different things. You're hearing so many lies from the media, through your own maybe leaders in your community that are owned by the mafia. Most major cities are run by mafia. And when those cities are run by mafia, they're always going to tell you a positive spin on what they're doing. But point in fact, if you really look at each city and how they truly run and how they make their money and the fruit of what comes of it, wherever you're living, I'm just going to ask you a very simple question. Do you feel that you have the freedom, wherever you are, to truly live out your best life? that you can do whatever you'd like and you're going to be okay. Do you feel that? Or, flip side, do you feel that whenever you come, you may be dealing with a lot of different negative things in your job or in your life situation? Do you feel that whenever you come up with a positive idea, you get shut down really fast? Or there's so much red tape in order for you to be able to do what you would actually like to do? Maybe you'd like to open up a bakery. I mean, as simple as a bakery. There's so much red tape if you want to go through certain avenues to make that happen in some cities. There's cities that want to sell you this 100% earning mentality where you're busting your butt and you're making $100,000 a year, and that should be really good. You should be doing really well, but you're stuck renting a micro luxury prison cell and you're not going to be able to get out of it. Is that living? That's New York City. It drives me crazy. It drives me crazy that people say that New York City is so great. New York City is the perfect example of Luciferian living. You earn every little thing. And at $100,000 a year, you're still in poverty in New York City. It's crazy. It's crazy. And you, in order to even just get across town, just to try to get across town, it costs like $50. Just to move from one place to another. Do you know, and that should never ever be. So let's talk about the government shutdown. Oh, the government shutdown. It's so terrible. No, it's not. We can get on. We can get on in our lives without federal government. We can do perfectly well. I think that this is a really great example of showing how much money is lost in our taxes from insane federal government bureaucracy. Not only that, there's a deeper issue that's going on with the government shutdown. And I'm just going to go there. So let's go back to 9/11. Let's go back to the idea that there have been certain leaders that have sold our country and our people into Walmart mentality, into debased thinking, no dignity. No dignity. We're given jobs that hardly pay bills. And yet, somehow, there's billions and trillions of dollars going into things that we never see the fruit of. We never see the fruit of. All of those guys, this is good news. You can hear it. If you haven't heard it before, you're going to hear it here. They're all getting arrested. And they're all going through military tribunals right now. The only reason, or the only way that you could actually try someone that's in government is if there is no government anymore. So this is an opportunity right now with the government shutdown to go after the Clintons. It's happening. It's happening right now. And go after all the folks that have been selling our country out and our people and global people. It's not, you know, some people have this major self-hatred. They think it's a horrible thing to actually care about your own country and your own people. We're awful people to want to make America great again. Why is that so bad? This is where you live. This is where you've rooted. Why would you not want to have America good? A great, amazing, a good place, let alone everything else. I mean, shutting down global human trafficking is going to help everybody in the world. And yet, everyone's still focused on hanging Trump. You guys, he's following JFK's policies that got JFK killed in the 1960s. Guess who killed him? George Bush Sr. Why? Because George Bush Sr. was head of CIA and running stuff. He was the dude. And he was the force behind Reagan. And he was the force behind his own son. And he was the one that lifted up Bill Clinton. And he was the one behind Hillary. There are people in politics that are able to create their own wealth outside of politics because they know how to create abundance in good ways. In good ways. There's other people that go into politics and they want to make a ton of money off their power and nothing else. And they sell everybody short. Who are you going to be behind? Who are you going to be behind? Okay, so let's go to 9/11. So personally, 9/11, I was there. I was living in DC at the time. I was living in Georgetown for 9 months. And then I moved to Arlington about 4 months before 9/11. So Arlington, Ballston area was about 5 minutes from the Pentagon. And I was in my early 20s. And I remember that day I was supposed to go into work and I was going to take that bridge that actually crossed over the Pentagon to get to work, and I just felt like I wanted to be late. Like I was just tired. I got a phone call from a friend in Connecticut that told me, turn on your television. You know, this is what happened. And I had a bunch of clients. I was in real estate in DC at the time, and I had a bunch of, and I was an artist by night, real estate by day in DC. And I had a bunch of clients that were Pentagon employees as well, okay? I jump on the television and I see what's going on. And they kept showing it over and over and over and over and over again. Like it was trauma, like they wanted to constantly traumatize you, like showing the worst things. And I'm only saying this for people that have, you know, there's so many people now, 20 years later, that think they know because they listen to somebody else and they listen to certain news people. Well, I'm going to tell you my story of what happened because I was there, literally, and this is what went down. They played the worst things about 9/11 over and over again on the television. And I drove over to the Pentagon because, again, it was 5 minutes from my house. There was no airplane debris. There was no airplane debris. It looked like a missile went through the Pentagon. And conveniently enough, it went through a part of the Pentagon that they were renovating at the time. They had closed down that part of the Pentagon, I want to say 6 months earlier, for quote-unquote renovations. That's convenient. So that happened. The next thing that happened was that we went to the Lincoln Memorial that night, and we were all singing, you know, songs of peace and just trying to like deal with the situation. And there was a good amount of people that showed up at the Lincoln Memorial that night. So, of course, everyone's tuned into their television, and I was tuned into what Bush Jr. was going to talk about. Well, he very quickly, I mean, within a matter of a couple days, decided it was Saddam. Saddam's the problem. How does it go from Al-Qaeda to Saddam that quickly? Only because Saddam was a puppet for his dad for years, and then he decided he didn't want to be a puppet anymore. And let's destroy that sovereign nation. This is what CIA does. They want every country owned. They want you to do what they want you to do. And if you don't, they'll kill you. Look at Gaddafi. Look what they did with Gaddafi. And you want to talk about freedom? If you were with her, you were with what happened to Libya. Let's talk about Libya. Libya now is in complete chaos. They're literally selling human beings on a block like it was the 1600s. They're selling kids, they're selling women, they're selling men. It's awful. It's in complete chaos. There's the fruit of policy. Who was behind that policy? Who actually thought that was a valuable policy? Any takers? Okay. Okay. So, we're in 2019. Dignity. Let's talk about dignity. There's so much self-hatred and this weird language that people think they're being virtuous by being in a self-hatred mode. Let's stop that, please. Stop that. Dignity. You're not in dignity when you're looking for public housing. You're not in dignity when you have the state running your life. Dignity is knowing who you are as a human being and being able to live out your best life possible. And everyone values you and you value other people at the top level. Not the Walmart mentality. The Walmart mentality is the opposite. And there's a reason why there's that site, The People of Walmart, and it's completely not dignified, is it? Would you ever consider using the word dignity when you look at videos from The People of Walmart? The entire 20th century was trying to the leaders were trying to make people think that it was acceptable and appropriate to not have dignity anymore, to hate themselves, to lessen their vibrations, to lessen their ideals, to lessen so many different wonderful things that mattered. There's a, if you look at the pictures of how people dressed in the early 1900s, you had grown men that looked fantastic. For their suits, they looked beautiful. You had women who looked so dignified and so beautiful. You know, there was dignity. You walked a certain path. You knew what was right. You knew what was wrong. And everything else aligned with that. And there was dignity and there was beauty. You look now, why is it that you have 50-year-olds trying to dress like they're a 10-year-old kid? I've been asking myself this question as an artist because, you know, I look at everything as a social experiment. You know, I look at everything. I watch everything. And it's really bothered me for a long time to see grown men always wanting to dress like little kids and women wanting to unfeminize themselves and wear stuff that is just really not uplifting. Let's put it that way, okay? I'm not saying you have to wear Givenchy all day long, but dignity. Dignity. No matter where you're at, dignity. You're going to show up at Heinz Hall in sweats, there's a problem. And that's what's going on. Why? If we're in self-hatred and we don't have dignity, we're owned by those same treasonous leaders that want, this is what they wanted. They wanted a two-tier system. They wanted the slaves and they wanted the gods. And they saw themselves as gods. I hope you understand this. This isn't just about, you know, people thinking, you know, people making more money than you. These are folks that literally thought they were going to become gods. And the only way they were going to sway the masses, because there's only just a tiny, tiny few of them, okay, that they were going to sway the masses was to passively aggressively make them accept humility in a really bad way, undignify themselves, and consent to it. Because you have to consent. They can't force you to do anything. You have to consent. But what they do is they sell you lies. They sell it to you through the television. They sell it to you through supposed opportunities with jobs, which aren't really opportunities, because you're consenting to basically slave labor. They have you consent through movies. They'll sell you BS stories through movies so that you align yourself with the black sheep of the story rather than a bigger conversation that truly is the hero. They'll do that all the time. They'll have you consent in all kinds of different ways. They get you hooked on drugs. They'll get you thinking that you're in such survival mode, you'll sell your own kids. They'll have you, up until recently, think that you need to sign up with the military and sell your mind, body, and soul into a human experiment. I say that out of love because I really respect the military so much. I really want to make sure that's being said. I've gone through a family of military. My grandfather, we've all had kids very late in life, so my grandfather was World War One, and he was brilliant. He was amazing. He was 18, and he went into World War One, and he saw the worst atrocities you could possibly imagine. It turned his hair white, and he was never the same. He came home, and he didn't live out the life that he was originally intended to be because something marred him. It was a soul. Something hits you in your soul when you see that level of evil. And it affects everyone on a very personal level. And this is why I say this out of total love for everyone who's been in the military and you've had to come back and had to try to put your life together. I was hoping so much that the last 20 years didn't happen. When I was 22 and 9/11 first happened, I wrote a letter to the senator that was trying so hard to invade Iraq. And I wrote him an email. He was a senator, he was a representative from Georgia. I can't remember exactly his name anymore because it's been so long. And my emails changed. But I wrote him this email. And I said, please, if we blindly invade Iraq because of what someone randomly did for 9/11, we're going to have what Ron Paul has now coined blowback. Ron Paul has coined that name blowback. But my common sense at the time and what I was trying to explain to this representative who was really pushing to make the Iraq invasion happen, I said, if we blindly go in there and we just blow up a bunch of stuff and we destroy people in another country randomly and not specifically find out who exactly did what happened at 9/11, we're going to create an entire generation of people in that country that will want to destroy us. And we're going to have a whole problem on our hands if we do that. I never got a response, but we see the fruit of it, don't we? That's exactly what's been going on. What do you think ISIS is? Actually, no, ISIS is that's CIA too. Yeah, it's so messed up. – 2019. Let's end this conversation on a really good note. 2019. We all are now aware of the underbelly of war, which is human trafficking, trying to sell everybody for $1. Do you know why you have a good job? Because someone really values you and you really value yourself. Do you know why most people don't have that? They don't value themselves and other people are trying to traffic them. Let's stop that. Let's start valuing people in our own communities. Let's value the people that we care about. Buy their art. Give on Patreon. Give them a gift. Focus on buying a car from them. I just recently bought a car from a wonderful family, and I paid a little bit more for it. But you know what? I am totally okay with that. I want them blessed. I'm good with it. I'm okay. I want them to be blessed. Blessing people with abundance, you know? Not trying to yard sale everybody. Wouldn't that be amazing? Let's try that in 2019. And also, truly imagine what you can really do in this world, regardless of the dollar. Because remember, the dollar has been the biggest excuse of why people have done terrible things in this world. And if we really want to change the world, it's time to think beyond the dollar and think with your heart first. Think with your joy first. Think with your love first. And don't consent. The biggest thing, don't consent to liars and the bullshit. The bigger than that. No consent. No consent. Live free or die. But don't die. Just live free. It's a changing of your mental state. And it's a beautiful place to be. And I want to bless every single one of you time. I want to see every single person that's brought into this world to be able to live out exactly who God wanted them to be. The highest God. With that, you have no fear. And you'll be just fine. And everything will change. I want to go to sleep now. I'm tired. But I hope you guys have a wonderful night. And thank you for subscribing. And thank you for being you. Appreciate you. It's something in Nashville that people say. And I love it so much. Why don't you spread that? Start saying I appreciate you. We cut it to just appreciate you. But it's such a beautiful thing to say. Simple. Appreciate you. Do your thing.